Capturing painterly wave images is only half the battle. If you really want your wave shots to stand out, you're gonna have to dial in the right editing techniques. But where do you even start? How do you pick the right photo? And what are the exact steps to bring out those beautiful tones, textures, and details? I'll be using Lightroom in this tutorial, but you could follow along in any basic editing software. I'll show you exactly how to take your painterly wave photos to the next level. But first, you have to find the best photo out of the million that you took. So what do you look for exactly? Let's dive into Lightroom, cull these images, and edit one into a masterpiece. Of course, pick which ones you like the most, but here are the things that I look for in the perfect wave capture. I want the blur to still be there, but I need some focus in the water spray and the streaks too. Some are almost perfect, but we're looking for that absolutely perfect combination. That one shot out of 1,000. I've already culled these down to about 50 just to keep this video tighter, but I took a ton. So let's run through these real quick and I'll show you exactly what I'm looking for. So here we have too much blur. Not quite zoomed in far enough, the wave's a little far away still, but we were starting to practice and starting to capture this. This is why I use the back button focus, because you can continually keep the focus engaged while the burst mode is firing. See, that one was starting to capture. I love these lines sweeping and how this comes, but just a little out of frame. But the lines were great and we did start to capture the focus here. This is kind of what I'm looking for. You still have those beautiful streaks, the light's hitting them, and it looks just like paint strokes. I ended up loving this one too. I love these like ghostly looking streaks, just like different from all the other waves. But there we were starting to catch focus. Little off here. See, it's a little sharper on the back. Again, sharper up here, but that wave was already crashing through. Blurry, blurry, blurry. But right here, I started to capture what I was looking for. These curves and beautiful brush stroke looking patterns. And then the sharp spray. Again, you start to get that softness with the backlit spray. It's beautiful. So this is the one we're gonna edit. What we wanna do is really pull out these details, tones, while not overdoing it. And there are a few secret tricks to get that done. Let's dive in. I will be the first to admit editing is subjective, and I end up taking a different total workflow on almost every image, not kidding. That said, let's edit this one down. For this edit, I will stay in Lightroom just because not everyone has Photoshop, and you don't really need it for these images to be honest. But if you do use a subtle Orton effect, definitely won't hurt anything. But we will really bring out the textures and tones in Lightroom alone. But first, let's get a balance. So this capture was done pretty well. I haven't clipped any highlights. I've got all the data that I need, nothing clipping in either direction. I'm gonna go up here, auto, and that was pretty close to the day. I'm gonna bring it a little bluer, and that looks just about right. But you can really express some artistic creativity with the color, and I'll show you that later. All right, so we have a base exposure. Let's clean up some of the sensor dust. And for these types of photos, I like to use the AI removal. It's much better than the old spot removal because of all these curves. Like for example, let me show you. You'll see it doesn't blend very well because the tones and curves are so subtle that it just doesn't work. So always use the AI removal for this type of photo. It takes a bit longer, but totally worth it for the clean output. All right, let's get rid of the sensor dust, but I'm gonna speed through this for you. Go ahead and crop this down to a 16:9 is what I want for my final image. I'm gonna keep our wave centered. I'm gonna keep that curl in. Right about there looks great. We've got our image cleaned up, we've cropped it, and we have a global balance. But the global sliders can only take you so far. And to level up your editing, you need to utilize masks. Let's use a few general masks to focus the attention to the main subject, our wave. I use masks to target the areas I want to subdue and enhance the light where I want to focus the viewer's attention. I usually prefer to use a linear gradient mask to darken the top and bottom for this type of image, as it is more subtle and has a bit more control than say a vignette. This will draw the viewer's eye to the center, right where we want it to go. Got a linear gradient mask selected. I like to hold shift where you want the line to start, and then you can fade it there. And then you have control here. You have control how hard you want it to cut. For these types of like wider wave photos where a vignette's gonna kind of pinch your corners a little too much. So this gives you a bit more control. So we're just gonna bring that exposure down a little bit. So that's not so bright. Do the same for the top. Create new mask, linear gradient. But this one I'll leave a bit softer because I don't want to come into the spray too much. And you could also intersect that mask and get that spray out. We can try that. And then let's do some advanced stuff here. Let's add to it with a brush, all right, and get all this even here. Yep, and then here we'll go and intersect with luminance range. And grab this, the highlights, and you can see where it falls out. So if you just barely bring it down, you can get it out of that spray. That's really white and backlit. All right, so that's good. Bring that down just a little bit. Not so much though, you don't want to overdo it, so just bring it down a little bit. But what we're doing here is drawing our attention to this center wave. We don't want bright spots in the top or bottom. We want to hold the viewer's attention right here. So now it's starting to come together. But where it really gets fun is bringing out the textures, tones, and details of our main wave. So let's target these sections with a brush mask and really make the wave pop. We'll go back over to our mask, create new mask, brush. Keep your feather kind of high so it fades well. And then you just want to brush on the sections that you want to affect. So we're going to target our main wave. And remember, you can add as many of these as you like. So I want to bring that up. So we're basically going to bring the exposure of all this up. Now, bring this exposure up a tiny bit. Come down to clarity and dehaze. Mess with that a little bit. But just a little bit, because we can target this exact spray later with dehaze and clarity. We just want to bring out that contrast a little bit. All right, so now that it's starting to come together, I'm gonna bring my curves down and darken this whole image a bit. We have a lot of room to play with here. All right, so that's starting to look nice. But let's target this specific middle section and these light streaks with another brush. See, just a little bit goes a long way. And that's even a little much. Create another one. Let's just get this top crest. See the clarity heavy, we'll make it sharper. If you bring it out, it'll make it softer. But we want the viewer's eye to be on the cresting part of that wave, so that's where I'm gonna sharpen it, while most everything else is a bit softer. Not sharpen it, but contrast, edges, which increases the apparent sharpness. I'm gonna do one more just to brighten up this stuff. It got a little too dark and it's like purple and blue. So one more brush. We'll grab this, all this shadow. I'm gonna bring it up in exposure a tiny bit, just so it's not so dark over there. And then I'm gonna warm it up too, because it's just like not sitting right in the image. A little too blue. See, there we go. Now it matches the rest of the image a bit more. Sometimes your shadows can get really cool and blue. And in this image, it just didn't work, kind of distracting. Could probably go green a little bit too, huh? Oh yeah, get away with a little green. It was a little magenta. So from here, I would just iterate and keep going and just tweaking and tweaking. I haven't even added any contrast. You could probably bring this whole thing down, bring these whites up. So this is where you really put your own style on it and how you want it to look. Just small tweaks on everything. Clarity down, clarity up. See how everything looks. Dehaze up. See, you get a stronger look, but don't go too heavy with that, especially with the global slider. But you can go softer too sometimes if you want. Always play around, put your own stamp on things. Just don't go too heavy and watch your histogram. First, does it look good to you? And then check your histogram and make sure everything's in line. Okay, so this image is looking great, but the next thing can sometimes be a bit controversial. But this is a great subject to really play with color in your image. But how far do you push it? This is one style of photography where I think you have a license to kind of go wild if you really want to. While some prefer a totally natural look to the day, color-wise, this is an artistic, painterly photo of a wave or a small section of the water, and I believe it's totally acceptable to take it where you want to. So here's a few variations to try to tweak your colors. First, I'll show you the global calibration sliders down here at the bottom. And I'm always tweaking these because, as we know, Sony's always a bit green, yellow-green, so I always like to pull this green a little over, or alternatively, you could do the reds this way, the blues this way, and that's gonna give you that kind of teal orange vibe. And here, just tweak it a lot just to show you how much this affects things. And the blue will be heavy, yeah. See, so you can really go wild with this, but very subtle moves make a big difference. But generally, on my Sony, I just pull the greens a little over this way, and that kind of corrects the things that, for me, personally, how I like it. But that'll take you only so far, and it's kind of not very controlled, and that's more of a global thing. We'll put that back, and let's check out the HSL sliders. So the HSL sliders right here, hue, saturation, and luminance, are really gonna allow you creative freedom to play with this. For instance, take your yellow. All of a sudden, we have emerald water. Tweak your blues. See our shadows really changing colors over there. But with this image, it's really strongest in the yellow, clearly, because that's the sunlight coming through the back. So that looks pretty cool. Kind of gives it like a tropical West Coast look, West Coast of Florida. But what you really want to do is just play with these sliders. Even the luminance, watch yellow. You can brighten it, darken it, make things stand out, certain colors. So I don't know the exact vibe I'm gonna go with, but I'll speed through this and just play with the color and we'll see what I come up with. All right, let's finish this color grade. I'm gonna go ahead and denoise it too while we're here. Even though we're at ISO 160, there's a bit of noise in the shadows. So that cleaned that up, big time. The new AI denoise is great. Remember not to overdo it and have fun, but this is a painterly styled image, so use your creative license freely. But is my final image any good? Let's check it out. If you enjoyed this editing video, here's a simple sunset editing video to check out next. Please subscribe, and we'll see you next time, guys.
So capturing your painterly wave image, capturing painter. All right, that was it.